Hey there everyone, it's Nina. Thanks for joining me today for a new video. Today I have two cards to share with you that both feature some fun ways to incorporate pattern paper into your card projects, and we're going to do some fun stamping techniques. But before I get into the video, I am going to mention that I'm participating in Simon Says Stamps Be Bold Release blog hop. So if you want to see even more inspiration using the Be Bold collection, which is what I'm using today in my video, you're going to want to check out the hop because there's a lot of other designers who are participating, and there's a special coupon code right now. If you use the code GREEN, you get $7 off your purchase of $40 or more, which is a great deal. So here's a sneak peek at the two cards we're going to be creating today. This one features the pretty petals set and also some other new products from the Be Bold collection. And then I also used the Tim Holtz watercolor stamp set and Simon Says Stamps brand new watercolor coordinating dies that cut out the Tim stamps. I used that for this hello card that also features some other beautiful products from the release. So here is the watercolor stamp set. This is actually a stamp set that was previously released from Tim Holtz. It's not brand new, but the dies that coordinate with this set are brand new, and they're from Simon Says Stamps Be Bold collection. I thought it would be fun to do some multi-step stamping with these stamps, and I'm going to pick out 3 of the butterflies, and using 2 shades of ink, I'm going to ink up the stamp with 1 shade and then go over that ink with another shade to create a third tone in between, and it also creates this really cool ombre look. Now I always like to feather my ink for the second stamping just so that way I get less of a harsh line and it really feathers that out nice. And you can see the colors that I'm using on screen here, which ones I used for each butterfly. Now originally I thought I might use a yellow and green butterfly, but in the end I decided to go with yellow and pink. So you will see me stamp that butterfly in the middle a second time, and that one I really liked better. It coordinated better with the other colors that I was using. So I just added a little bit of yellow first, and then I also used some carnation ink to color on the bottom. Now the largest butterfly in this collection I actually stamped with Simon's new terracotta ink, and that beautiful orange color looks so pretty with Cheeky. So here I'm using the coordinating dies from Simon Says Stamps Be Bold release. This is the watercolor die set, and I cut out the butterflies, and I'm going to use this Simple Things pattern paper collection from Pinkfresh Studios to serve as my background. I also die cut the brand new Lush leaves die set from some midnight green cardstock. And I'm going to use these to create a cascading leafy assortment along the right side of my card, and that's going to flow with the butterflies. So the butterflies are going to arc with that, and I think that looks really pretty. I am going to cut this simple hello die from CZ Design and cut it from some ballet cardstock from Rainbow Splash, which is a really pretty pink that coordinated nicely with the pattern paper. So the pattern paper here is serving as my background, and it looks really good against these colors. And you'll also notice that the colors I used for my stamping coordinate nicely with the paper. So everything feels very cohesive. I wanted to make sure that all of the colors matched so that they looked really good together. So I'm gluing all of my pieces together to form my card. I stacked up the sentiment, and then I took some liquid glue to adhere my leafy clusters along the side of my card. Now in some spots I did decide to put a couple pieces of foam tape behind the leaves just to pop up some of those leaves, but the main stem is glued directly to the card. For the butterflies, I just simply folded them down the middle to give them a little bit of a fluttering look, and then with a little bit of craft tacky glue down the center, that adhered them perfectly to my card, but it makes them look like they're flying. So before I adhered my third butterfly to my card project, I did set the placement of that hello, and that's going to layer over top of the pink and yellow butterfly, but then the teal butterfly is actually going to layer over top of the sentiment. And that just creates some depth here. This is a really fun way to be able to add some interest to your background by incorporating those different layers and allowing things to overlap. So this is an A2 size card that I put onto a white card base. And the final finishing touch was to add some of these beautiful taffy dazzling gems from Simon Says Stamp. These are brand new from the Be Bold collection, and the taffy color looks so pretty with the pinks in this card. I love how this turned out, and that striking background adds such a beautiful design to this card. And by using it as the way to dictate what colors I put into the rest of my card, that helps everything feel really, really cohesive. Now, speaking of colors, this Pretty Petals stamp set and coordinating dies from the Be Bold release are super fun to play with. And these are another fun way to be able to get your inks out and do a bit of stamping. So I'm going to use the outline layers first, and you could use the stamps as just the outlines and then color them in with your Copic markers or watercolors, but there are some layers that are included in this set that allow you to color in the petals by stamping. So after stamping with the VersaFine Clair of both the petals and also the leaves, I have all my groupings stamped, and now we're ready to add the color. And on the back side of the stamp packaging, there is a color guide that you could use to help you decide. You could follow that guide exactly if you want, or if you're going to be like me, I change things up a little bit, and so I'm going to create my own custom assortment. So these are simple to line up. You just line them up inside of the outline of the stamp, and then you go ahead and ink up one of the sections of the flowers with your different colors of inks. And because these particular images overlap, it's really fun to get that third color in between the colors that you're stamping with. And so for this one, I used some yellows, oranges, and even a little touch of blush here for the very end. Created such a beautiful combination. Then for the second flower, I did a purple and also teal, and that overlapped and created that really nice color in between. And then finally, the third flower features purple and pink. Peony is one of my favorite inks ever from the Simon collection, so I really wanted to incorporate that there. And it's bright and happy, and all of these look so pretty. The leaves are stamped the exact same way. You'll go ahead and take the color sections of each of those stamps, line them up inside of the outline, and then go ahead and work on filling in those areas with your inks. These come together super fast, and I did use the coordinating dies to cut my pieces out because I do want to layer these on top of a background that I'm going to make for some pattern paper. This is another fun way to be able to use your pattern paper. I picked out this pattern that's very simple. It's basically just a color blend, and I'm going to lay the new Lattice tile stencil over top and ink blend on top of the pattern paper. That's going to give me this really cool ghosted design into the pattern paper. It actually looks like the paper was intended to be this way. But what I like about this is that you can take a simple background paper and turn it into something really special by adding a stenciling design on top of it. So after ink blending through the stencil in random sections, you can see I did not color it perfectly. I wanted it to be a bit more variegated. That left me with this really cool design that I can now layer my flowers onto. So I did use Simon Says Stamp 3D foam squares in both the thin and 3D sizes. That way I get some variation to the depth of these flowers, so the flowers are actually more dimensional than the leaves, and that creates some interest. I did group these along the left side of my card, trying to form a little bouquet here. And then I did decide to splatter this. I'm using this Dina Wakley white spray, and it is super bright white, and it does not react with any ink that you might have underneath, which I think is really, really nice. It's hard to find a white ink that doesn't react, that's not a paint. So this is a really great medium, and it dries really fast too. I did want to mat this background onto some black cardstock. I wanted some of that black to come through. We got a lot of color here, and that contrast of the black edging on this paper truly made this card stand out. I really like this, and it's also going to give it some separation from some more paper we're going to add to our card base. This card is a 5x7, and I am going to put a bit of paper trim along the bottom from that same Simple Things collection from Pinkfresh Studios. I loved how that little touch of pink along the bottom and that fun little pattern mimicked the whimsical look of these petals. And it's also creating some interest along the bottom. I also accented that with a trim of gold paper. I cut a little thin strip of our Simon Says Stamp matte gold cardstock. And then I'm going to layer my flower panel on top of all of that. And you can see how that really adds a nice grounding point along the bottom of our card. Makes everything feel really balanced. Now we just need a sentiment. I'm going to use the new You Rock stamp set from the Be Bold release, and I picked out the sentiment that says Sending Love. And I'm going to prep the surface of my black cardstock with a Simon Says Stamp powder tool prior to stamping, just to make sure that I get a really nice crisp image. I did use Simon embossing ink for the stamping, and then I'll use gold embossing powder to bring in a little bit more of that gold so that it ties nicely with that paper strip that we added along the bottom of our card. I will set the powder with my heat tool, and then I'll use the coordinating die to cut the sentiment out. I always love having the coordinating dies for greetings. If you don't have the dies though, you could just cut this down into a simple rectangle. So I popped that up along the top right of my card, and then I finished things off by adding an assortment of Simon Says Stamp Positively Dazzling Gems. Some of these are new colors, such as the Taffy, Lilac, Mandarin, and Surf that I used throughout the project. The Sunbeam Yellow is one that was released last month, but all of these beautiful gems work so perfectly together and add such a beautiful sparkle to your card project. And I am thrilled with how this card turned out. What I'm also thrilled about is that I used pattern paper, which I have a ton of. I hoard it because I love it so much, and then I'm always afraid to use it. Well, I wanted to make sure that I incorporated more of that into what I'm creating. So here I used it to create my own custom background by adding some stenciling. We also used it as a border along the bottom of the card. And then of course, going back to the first card that we made, I also used it to create that really stunning background, and I also used it as my guide for selecting colors to use on the elements that I added on top. So I hope you were inspired by all of these ideas that I've shared today using the brand new Be Bold release from Simon Says Stamp. It's a good one. There's a lot of great stuff in this release, and all of the products work so well together, and of course work great with products that you already have. So I hope you were inspired and enjoyed this video. I appreciate that you stopped by and spent some time with me today. I will be back soon to share more with you all, but until I see you again, I hope you all have a wonderful day, and thanks for watching.